Welcome back to the latest episode of the CJ Tour podcast. As always, here I'm your host, Calvin Glenn Alexander, and this week we're talking about Cowboy football and basketball and college football playoffs and a bunch of other things, I'm sure. So I'm joined by Jake Carlson. Jake, how's it going, man?
It's going pretty well.
Yeah.
We have Thanksgiving break coming up, so that's always a plus.
Hey, for all of you guys who work in the school districts, shout out.
Yeah.
For us non-school district folks, I got work this Sunday, and then Wednesday we got a half day. Thursday and Friday we got off, so that's pretty sweet. I'm digging it.
My schedule has not changed for 20 years. It's great.
I feel like it changed a little bit. Just a little bit. College, the 4 years of college, it changed a little bit.
Yeah, but like not a ton.
True. Yeah, true.
So
Of course. I mean, it is what it is. What can we say, right?
Yeah.
With all that being said, though, in case you missed it, just to catch everyone up, Oklahoma State blacked out TCU. And I mean that in both dual purpose. I mean, we blacked them out. 63-17 win. Huge. Defense only allowed 3 points on an opening drive again. And then there were 14 more points scored when we put in our backups. And then we scored 63. Mike Gundy's son even saw the field. So it was a great football win. Great football win. Truly exceptional, I would say.
And I will say, going into the game, I don't think we were anticipating dropping 63 points on them, just in general.
That is the most amount of points we've scored by far and away this season in a game.
And this isn't, Mason Rudolph. So this is an anomaly against a team that I know, like the whole Gary Patterson thing. It'll either have Gary Patterson no longer being there either has a super positive effect or a super negative effect. And I think we know what it had this time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, this is, and actually previewing the Tech game a little bit here for half a second before we get into it later. This was the second game in a row. And this will be the third game in a row when we play Tech this weekend, where we are playing our opponent this week just came off of their best win of the season. So just to recap, TCU beat Baylor. Week before then, West Virginia beat Iowa State. I forget going back before then, but I think KU had played OU closely, so that doesn't really count necessarily. And then the week before then, we played Iowa State and we lost, unfortunately, by 3. So, but TCU, man, we looked good.
And also beat Baylor coming off their win against Iowa State.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So, it's been a couple of hey, I don't know if it's a matter of catching teams at the right time or if it's we're better than you, or just it could just very well be a combination of both, and just kind of leave it at that. And I don't necessarily know if we're quick math 46 points better than TCU, right? I wouldn't necessarily say we're probably 46 points better than TCU, because that's a lot of points.
But we were on Saturday.
We were on Saturday, yeah.
I mean, that's what matters at the end of the
day. Just like Michigan State was better than Michigan
when they played. So we'll get into the college football playoff thing here in a second, I guess. Because I'm ready for that one. But I'll say it this way: we looked really, really good against TCU. The whole team looked incredibly good, and I gotta admit, I was doing a couple of things around the apartment just because at the time the game came on or whatever. Actually, I went to the UCLA game that night, so I'm so sorry I didn't watch the whole OSU game front to back during the game.
I think I turned it off
later.
I flipped over to something else.
But I got to say, we put up 682 yards on TCU. TCU's defense isn't horrible. It's not the worst in the Big 12. I will say as well here, it's not like we were unstoppable or invincible, but we're pretty darn close. Spencer Sanders was 17-25 on the game, 235 yards, 1 touchdown. These stats are kind of okay. They're not incredible stats. But then you look at it and you're going, oh, wait, but he didn't play the full game. And we still put up 682 yards.
Let me ask you this about Spencer Sanders. I think we gave him a lot of crap at the beginning of the year. Warranted or unwarranted. I think we gave him probably a little bit more uh, criticism, maybe, than he was due, or maybe just we expected him to do more because we're not coming into the year expecting that we're going to win every single game because our defense is literally just not going to let you score. So when we flipped our expectations, probably about the Baylor game, I would say, when we flipped our expectations, then I mean we beat Baylor 24-14, and they put up how many points on Oklahoma? More,
I couldn't even
more,
tell you.
more than
30,
that. Yeah.
27,
So
27 actually.
yeah. So they doubled basically. Um, so I guess if I were looking at Spencer Sanders, he is like San Francisco 49ers Alex Smith. And I don't think that's an insult. I don't know if it's necessarily a compliment, but like he's a game manager, right? That's
I
what Spencer
I
Sanders
have
is.
I have a little bit different of a comparison there for you, and I
Okay.
have a Russell Wilson rookie year wins the Super Bowl, but game manager for sure.
Mhm.
That's what I have Sanders as, and it's
Legion of Boom type stuff.
yeah, it's just because the Niners relied on their defense to make it, with Alex Smith,
Right.
whatever,
Right.
right? And maybe it's a little Kaepernick-ish, whatever, but like we're not relying on Sanders to score 80 points. I mean,
No.
if you told me through the first 3 games, we're gonna allow more points than we will the last 3 games we played, right?
And wasn't Marshawn
And
Lynch also the running back for that Seattle Seahawks team?
also true, also true. Very Jalen Warren-esque, by the way.
So
Marshawn
so
Lynch, Jalen
it's
Warren,
it's
yeah.
I'm justifying your point here where it's like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he's a, yeah, that's what he
He's
is.
he's a great quarterback, but if you had told me to start the season that, so we allowed 23 points Tulsa. So if you had told me second game of the season, we're gonna allow the same amount of points that we do the last 3 games we played so far.
Mhm.
Granted, yeah, KU is one of the teams, but West Virginia and Texas and TCU are the other 2. Like, I would have been, "Whoa, what do we do?" And
Yeah.
that speaks more in my mind to how good this team is and how good this team has progressed throughout the year, but also a healthy Spencer Sanders playing a whole year is something I definitely didn't adjust my mindset to. Oh, how good
Mhm.
can this guy be if he plays the whole season? He had never played against West Virginia. This is his 3rd year playing for Oklahoma State. He hadn't played against West Virginia yet. It'd always been Drew Brown, and before then, and then last year was Shane Illenworth. So, oh, how good can he be? Right? Like, well, as the season progresses, he sees more and more. He's even better. Now, I will say, TCU had, what their 5-star running back not playing the game against us. Their starting quarterback was out as well.
Yeah.
But it's a hard thing for me to go, oh, they're that bad when they beat Baylor with the same stuff the week before then.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
when we know how good Baylor is. So I'm not gonna just go, "Oh, TCU sucks. We got them with a week that they didn't have their guys." Well, no, because they beat Baylor the week before without their guys. Now, coming off a big emotional victory, that's apparently what happened with Michigan State, right? Michigan State goes up, beats Michigan, and then the next week loses to Purdue. And of
Yeah.
course, then we saw Ohio State just wax Purdue.
I
So
mean, if you look up trap game in the dictionary, that's what it is. Like going to play beating Michigan and then having to go play Purdue. Like that
that's it.
it's like if we had to play Kansas State every year after we played Oklahoma. Like that just wouldn't be fun. Like it
It wouldn't be. And I gotta say the other part of this where I go, "Oh my gosh, how good can we be?" is okay, so we got Tech this weekend, right?
yeah.
But OU,
Who's
we've
good?
seen OU, we've seen doesn't look great. So, like, as long as we don't let this trap type of game
Right.
against Tech at night in Lubbock, go over our heads, then I think we
Mhm.
can be looking pretty darn good when we play OU. Now, of course, OU, it's a it's a 6:30 Central ABC kickoff, so game day maybe, but
If
we gotta get past Tech. Like, all that matters right now for us is just winning out.
right. And I mean, I again, same sort of this TCU game didn't necessarily change my confidence level going into Tech. I have
Yeah.
the exact same feeling about playing Texas Tech as I did playing West Virginia and as I did playing TCU. Like, it's still like, could we lose? Yeah, we could. We could. And there was a stat, I can't remember which game they put it up, but they said, like, over the last 5 years or something like that, we have lost 2 out of our last 3 games in the regular season. I think it was something along those lines where it's like the Mason year, we go into Baylor, or yeah, we Baylor comes to us, we're undefeated, lost. Then we lost the next game. Then we lost against OU. Um, and so it's just like, can we get out of that? I don't know, and I would hope so. And I don't think the way it looks right now, we're going to play one extra game. We're going to play in the Big 12
Yeah.
championship so far. That's the way it looks right now. And I want to say if we beat Texas Tech, is it
So so
locked up?
if we beat Tech, it's locked up. If
Okay.
OU wins this weekend against Iowa State, it's locked up too. From my understanding.
How many? So Baylor has 2 conference losses. Is that right?
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
Iowa State
yeah,
and us. So,
yeah. Yeah.
but then we would be in a 3-way tie if we lose to Oklahoma. No, no, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Because if we lose to OU, then we have the head-to-head over Baylor, and if we beat OU, then we have the head-to-head over Oklahoma and Baylor. So it doesn't really matter. Yeah. Okay. Well, now if we lose to Tech, then we're in a whole different world. But yeah, I mean, it has to be, like all we said this year is we would be very surprised if we made it to the Big 12 championship, but we think that would be our goal, is to go to the Big 12 championship. And now we're looking like, I don't want to say we're playing like a playoff team right now, but I think we are.
Yeah,
Just
well,
if you just
I
look how we've played the last 3 weeks.
yeah, well, I wanna ask you about this, right? So,
Yeah.
and I do not mean to come at you, but you've been the Gundy,
Yeah.
disliker, hater, whatever you wanna say, right? The Gundy non-enthusiast. I've been the guy so far on the podcast,
Yeah.
you and Alexi have
Hmm.
"Hey, Gundy this, Gundy that," right? In the first 3 games of the season, I think I was right there with you, as far as like, "Dude, what are we doing? We we throw the ball like 10 times and a half?" I mean,
Yeah.
well, what are we doing? Right? Like questioning several different things, going through, okay, well, is Casey Dunn actually making the play calls? Whatever, right?
Yeah.
Now, with those first 3 games, I wanna erase those podcasts because, like, we look so good, right? I
Hmm.
wanna, but I was full on it. How do you feel about Gundy now? Like, I'm not gonna ask you, like, do you take back? I'm just gonna say, how do you feel about Gundy now?
So I think I still feel the same way about Gundy. Um, but
Well,
we aren't, in that
in
we
that you
aren't
want him gone, or that you think we won't reach our true potential?
I still think we won't reach our true potential with Gundy. Now, I've always stayed on the fact of, I don't know who the answer would be. We've always said that. Like, I don't know who the answer would be. I think we can take a pretty good look in the picture right now of who the answer would be, because he's on the staff.
He's the defensive coordinator
He's the
and
defensive coordinator.
assistant coach of the year award
I,
he's up for, at
but I
least.
think the big difference that we're seeing this year is we don't have to worry about the offense. And in past years, when we've lost games, it's like, if we lose to Texas Tech, for example,
Mhm.
say we lose to Tech 35-31, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We sit there and go, why are we giving up 35 points? We're not saying we should have scored more. Where in the past, that's what we would have said. Because we're like, if you give up 35 points to Tech, you should win. And I think this year, that's the big difference to me, is the narrative flipped it quickly, where it's like, we don't have to look at Gundy right now because he's not the one really winning football games and really calling the shots. Now, I still stand by the fact of I think if we had a different coach calling the shots against Iowa State, I think we win. Or at least go to overtime. At least. But now we are able to rely on something that hasn't been inconsistent. Because even in the past, even when our offense has been really good, it still looked inconsistent. We saw us lose to Central Michigan with like the best offense in the country because we literally couldn't score points against them.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it changes because it's like watching a Big Ten game. It's like, well, if you're a Big Ten team, you go into every game knowing, okay, well, we have defense, so that's fine. Like the way that you watch football when you have a defense is completely different. Does that make it? Am I making sense?
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Okay, I'm
I
just
would say
making sure.
this. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Don't
No,
sound
no,
like
no.
an idiot.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. You're good. I would say I'm 100% with you. Like when you are like when I'm watching Oklahoma State football of years past, of we when we blew out Tech 66-6,
Yeah,
in 2011, 10 years ago. Or I think I'm right in saying that. Um, I was not going, oh my gosh, we held them to 6. I was going, oh, we scored 60 more than they
yeah,
did. Right. Like
yeah.
now that's a Justin Blackman, Brandon Whedon, kind of Hunter, I believe, team. So
Hmm.
that's different expectations. That's not a Spencer Sanders, kind of game manager type who has 14 touchdowns through the season, right? That's a team where, 66 touchdowns in a game. I forget exactly how many of them Brandon Whedon threw versus, we're run for, right? So that's kind of the difference because I'm
Yeah,
I'm looking at the games going, oh no, we allowed a touchdown. Where in the past I'd go, okay, we got it. Oh no, we have to punt, right? Of like, how am I gauging the game as it's going through my head, right? Because we're all playing those games. Every single time we watch a college football game, whoever we're rooting for, whether it be UCLA beating Colorado this past weekend, and only scoring 16 in the first half and scoring 44 in the game, or whether it be OSU playing against TCU. I'm
yeah,
going, okay, oh, okay, all right, we allowed a field goal. We've done that on like a lot of opening drives. Okay, we might be all right. Like,
yeah.
okay, we might be all right. Okay, we answered with a touchdown. Okay, okay. All right, we scored again. Okay, okay. We're gauging
Hmm.
it. We're trying to go, oh no. Okay, we can't get down this much, right? When I'm watching an NFL game, especially for a team I'm currently huge fan of, but I've always been a fan of. I'm going, can we score 21 in a quarter? Like I'm going through my
Yeah.
head, like, oh, this means it's game, right? We almost are trying to look, and I think that's just a human element of it. We're almost
Hmm.
trying to gauge out and go, okay, if we can score right now, we still have a chance. But oh no, dude, it's gonna take something miraculous to happen if we don't score, right? This
Right.
isn't even enough time. Now, okay, now if we stop and we have to use all of our timeouts and we're going through like that, right?
Yeah.
But when we're a defensive team, we're going through it kind of the other way. Okay, all right, like we're still in the game because all we have to do is just hold them here. Now we're going. Okay, we got to kind of get up big early every
Yeah.
time, which is what
And
happened in Boise State. We had a couple things fall
yeah.
our way. It's what happened against Missouri State. It's what happened against Tulsa, more or less. It's definitely what's happened in the past 3 games against Kansas, TCU, and West Virginia. But I will say the game that I was most scared out of those 3 of the past, kind of 3 games was West Virginia. On the road, they play good defense. They had just beaten Iowa State, who was their only loss in the season.
Right.
The TCU game I was not that worried about. Now the Tech game, if you're asking me, am I worried about the Tech game or the AU game? No, duh, it's the OU game for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm almost worried about the Tech game a little bit more because I'm like, we can't overlook it because I know I'm overlooking it. So I know our players who are also from the state of Oklahoma,
Right.
probably calling Oliver growing up in Oklahoma City, like he's probably thinking about the OU game nonstop,
Yeah.
going, okay, Tech beat Iowa State on a 62-yard field goal at the very end when Iowa State looked pretty bad. Like, okay, we will be all right.
Yeah.
Um, we just don't want to get like that. We're looking forward to how good can we play football? How good can we be what's the best. And when we're not getting any type of, oh, okay, like is Sanders in a Heisman race? No, he's not. Does he deserve to be? I honestly don't think so. He's definitely been more of the game manager aspect guy, whatever. But does he deserve to be up for some type of recognition award? For sure. He's played incredibly well, especially statistically for his other seasons.
Right.
Um, I remember right before we played KU at homecoming, I heard a stat, and I think I've said it before on the podcast too, but I'll just reiterate it here because now it's on video. Shout out if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, however you're watching it. But Spencer Sanders had played in 30, he had 31 turnovers since 2019. And this is all before the KU game. And it was the most
Mhm.
in college football. Well, of course it would be. A lot of other guys don't get that many opportunities. Okay, you have a ton of turnovers. All right, we're pulling you for the backup. All right, Shane's going to play. What's happened with Sanders, though, is that he's been injured a lot. And so it's been, okay, well, we still got to give him a chance because if he looks so good in practice that he's, looks like a starter, well, we got to give him a chance in games. And sure enough, playing a little bit more, getting more playing time under the belt has really helped him out a ton.
Yeah.
Um, so I like our team. Do I think we'll beat Tech? Yeah, you better believe it. I got full faith this team will beat Tech. Do I think we'll beat OU? You know what? I was really optimistic last year, and it came crashing down on my face, and my face basically still burned, a little bit from that, like my ego.
Caved in.
But like ESPN's match predictor has us favored right now a little bit, 53%, right? We'll see how OU bounces back this weekend. They just lost their first game. If
Because they
OU
will. They
They
will.
they will, they will. And if OU wins by like 30 against Iowa State, excuse me, then we'll be going, okay, all right, this will be tough, right?
Yeah.
And then again, on the other side of it, against Tech this weekend, I don't want to get too ahead of myself. The spread's 10. The consensus spread is 10.5, like that we're favored. So that's not saying we're going to win by 40, right? And I don't
Right.
think you and I are both going, oh, is this Tech team good or bad? Tech team's not horrible. Granted, yeah, they've lost to OU, K-State, and TCU of recent memory, but they also beat Iowa State, as I said, and they beat KU, but they have 6 wins on the season. Like 6 wins isn't the easiest thing to come by. Um, so we'll see how it goes,
Yeah, and
right?
I mean, they also beat Houston at the beginning of the year, who is now ranked somehow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so,
Go
for
figure.
whatever that's worth. But
Yeah, go figure.
I mean, it's and back to the Gundy thing, I think it's different when we know the reason we're winning games is because of our defense and we know he's not touching it.
Well, I mean, are you that far out on Gundy though that like if he was doing something with our defense, you'd kind of I mean, grant we want to keep doing what we're doing, right? It's working. Let's
I
not mess with a good thing. But
if if I look back to those first 3 games, I think he had his hand in there a little bit.
okay,
I think we were playing a little bit more conservative than we are now. Because now it's like they're like Jim Knowles is like, "Go buck wild. I don't care." Like, that's how he tells the front 7, and there's like 8 of those guys that they rotate in there, and he's like, "Literally just go hit everybody." And I sent a statistic to, my good friend Will today. For the most quarterback pressures generated this season, okay? So in the entire country, the most quarterback pressures, Oklahoma State is number 2 behind Michigan State.
it's pretty
And
freaking good.
I'm not trying. I don't want to compare this to the NFL, but there are some. We see how much pass rushers get paid. Okay, we do, and we see there's not a whole lot of pass rushers that come from the Big 12.
Yeah.
A lot of them come SEC, or Big 10. So I think it's really important that we are getting pass rushes because we are showing that, like, this is clearly a thing that is important to a lot of people. which is pass rushes. And the fact that we are able to do this second in the country and are almost considered. I mean, I know we're considered a top 5 defense. I think we're probably top 3 because I think some of those Big Ten defenses that might be considered ahead of us are playing worse offenses, just flat out. I mean, Michigan's considered an elite off or elite defense, and I mean, Kenneth Walker's probably going to win the Heisman, but the dude dropped 3 touchdowns. I mean, and they completely collapsed in the second half. So, like, it's hard for me to be like, yeah, Michigan's worse than us or Michigan's better than us, considering they haven't really played anybody. I mean, I like to use the best team on your schedule argument. Did you lose to the best team on your schedule? Yes, you did. So, I mean, and so it's impressive that we are that high with quarterback pressures. Just
Yeah.
because I think it's so important, and I think it's going to be really important against Texas Tech, and I think it's going to be really important against Caleb Williams because we know how dynamic Caleb Williams is. But if we're getting that sort of pressure, then I think that gives us a pretty good chance. I mean, I know this is like a super far stretch, but I just think that pass rushers that needs to be there's emphasis on it in a lot of leagues. I mean, Von Miller basically won the Super Bowl. So,
Yeah.
not saying we have Von Miller, obviously. Not saying
No,
we're an NFL defense, but the
Malcolm
comparison of
Rodriguez, Von Miller, who's counting, right?
right, yeah.
But
But like it's important to have that aspect of a really good pass rush, which we have. So,
yeah, yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. And I was looking up here trying to figure out, if it's the true in true in the Big Ten, what is true in the SEC when we come to stat padding,
yeah.
right? SEC, 14 teams. That's great for them for two reasons. One, they I don't know why I'm using my hands for everything. One, they get the opportunity to play different teams from their conference every single season. So they are not always facing the same teams, which can
Right.
help and hurt teams for sure, right? But that means that some
If you
years,
get the lucky draw Vanderbilt, then
yeah, but some years that means that Georgia doesn't play Alabama in the regular season or LSU, right? Now, am I saying Georgia's bad? No, not at all. They've looked dominant the whole season. I'm not even getting into that.
right.
But probably be pretty nice to not play Alabama in the regular season, right?
And Georgia has to play Auburn every year
Yeah.
for that,
Well, Alabama has to play Auburn, right?
Yeah. No, but
Yeah.
like but Alabama's like SEC East team is Tennessee
Yeah,
every
yeah, I
year.
think that's right.
I
Yeah.
mean, which one would you rather have over the
Oh,
last
oh,
15 years? Like, which one would you rather have?
over the last 5, when Alabama's come to the past, what, 5 national championships or whatever it is? Yeah, for sure. I'd take it away the Cam Newton year, but besides that, I think there was one other year they went to the national championship, but that's it, right?
Yeah.
What I was gonna yeah, what the SEC, though, the other great thing is that they play 4 non-conference games a year, right?
And I
They
mean, we've gone into extent about
It's just dumb.
uh
It's just dumb. I don't know another way to say it, but when you are judging teams and you're going, "Oh my gosh, look at those stats those SEC teams are putting up." Yeah, against like Chaminade, right? Or I mean, I know it's a basketball school, but right? I mean, what are we talking about? What,
I mean,
our non-conference this year, let's be honest. We are the first team to play Boise State at Boise State. That's a Power 5 team ever from my understanding. So that's pretty darn good. But like Tulsa also plays Cincinnati. They also played, I think, Ohio State this year. So Tulsa, shout out to them.
mhm.
But then, and then like, all right, like Missouri State, like, okay, we, we, I'm not saying like, hey, other teams get cupcakes and we don't. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if you're looking at stats and you're going through and you're going, who are the best defenses? Who are the best offenses? Whatever. Well, let's count it on the same scale. Let's count only against in conference opponents because yeah, every team's gonna have their Purdue, their Vanderbilt, their Kansas to play against every year, right?
Mhm.
But not every single year does Alabama play a really tough non-conference opponent, or does Georgia, or does whoever, right? Like when Georgia played Clemson and it was that 10-3 game ending, I think we're all going, oh, Georgia might be pretty good. Don't know.
I mean,
But now it's
and
like, well, not sure.
and we've talked about Alabama's non-conference. It's Miami, who shouldn't have been ranked in the I will stand by that. That they shouldn't have been ranked going into the season. Mercer, which I would pay someone $20 right now if they could tell me where that is without looking it up. The only reason I know is because I live in that state.
Mercer beat Duke when they were 14 seed, beat a 3 seed. That's the only
They
reason
did,
I know Mercer.
yeah, and that was in a different sport.
Oh, it's definitely in college basketball for sure. That's
Right.
Duke. It's Duke basketball. That's why it's in
And
notoriety here.
then it's Miami, Mercer, Southern Miss, and New Mexico State. That is Alabama's non-conference. It is probably close to the worst non-conference in the country. And I think, and I'm going back to your point of like, I know the SEC is difficult. I know the strength of schedule is hard, but that doesn't give you an excuse to schedule crap teams all the time. I mean, shout out to Georgia, especially because they went out and scheduled Clemson, right? Georgia went out and scheduled Clemson. Auburn scheduled Clemson a couple years ago. So I respect it, and Georgia's non-conference is a little bit different because they have Clemson, UAB, Charleston Southern, which is where my dad went to school, and Georgia Tech, who they play every year. So the Georgia Tech one is kind of an added bonus, but there's a lot of like Chick-fil-A kickoff stuff that goes into that. So regardless, I mean, our non-conference schedule isn't the best. I think we would say that we would like it to be maybe a little bit better, right? But it's better than freaking Alabama's.
Well, but like
this year,
this year, for example, I'm glad we're not playing Alabama or Ohio State or Oregon, or I mean even Oregon State for that matter. I'm glad that we're playing the teams that we are. Because if we had a tough non-conference schedule this year, looking at those first 3 games, we weren't looking the greatest. So because if that adds another loss, then the whole thing's done. Whole thing is just over, right?
And so basketball just went into halftime up by 6 after a complete dumpster fire of the first 7 minutes of the game. So that's nice.
I mean, always nice when, shout out Go Pokes, right? Like,
all right.
I just saw that. Nice.
Are we ready to roast the committee yet?
Yeah, for sure. What I will say 1 second. Shout out Alexi Bulwark joined us here.
Yep, I'm on here now.
Thanks for joining, Alexi. More than happy to have you.
Good to be back on. Good to be on.
Good to have you again. The reigning leader in the house as far as stats go from last weekend for predictions, from my understanding.
So I'm the leader. I thought I had a bad week.
So.
Oh.
Well, everyone had a bad week because just
brutal.
Everyone's memories. All 3 of us were pansies because we all took OU. I mean, I'm calling it like it is. Then we took Virginia. We all took UCLA. Alexi, you took Penn State, but Michigan won, right? So
I did take Penn State. Yep.
You did take Penn State. Then who won the Ole Miss Texas A&M game? That's really the question here.
Ole Miss won. Right? I picked A&M.
Oh, okay, so I theoretically won in a very slim margin, but Alexi, you won the previous week clear as day. Okay. So you're the leader in the house here. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, as we go on through this week. Shout out to anyone who can find me a PNG image of Michigan's logo. Anyways, I said that earlier in the podcast.
I'm still holding on to my App State pick, so suck it.
Well done. Well done, sir. No one touched that. Is
that against Coastal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Against the Chanticleers?
The Chanticleers, yeah.
Chanticleers. Nice. Remember when we thought they were good? Yeah, no, it's time though. It's time for us to roast the committee. And I will say this. whatever they're going with, it is definitely stirring out the right amount of media drama because that's all we're talking about. Every single podcast, every single talk show, every single thing, whatever, is just the rankings this, the rankings that. How is Michigan ahead of Michigan State? When they're head to head, you can see what happened, but Ohio State's behind Oregon, yada, yada, all the type of stuff.
And I listened to Titus and Tate, and they make backhanded committee comments all the time. So, and they're a college basketball podcast.
Yeah. So I mean, clearly,
so, there you go.
It goes around. It goes around. We can all see. But I want to ask you, Alexi.
Yep.
In your opinion, is this ranking system flawed? Should we go back to the BCS? Should we go back to where it's just rank them whatever computers, or should we keep it where it is, just expand the playoffs? Because whoever is against expanding the playoffs, that's the dumbest argument I've ever heard. Why would you not want to see more college football? College football is the longest, off season, etc. Why would you not want to have more? But I want to ask you: would you rather go back to the BCS where it just ranks them, or would you rather it be the playoff committee?
Yeah, that's hard because Oklahoma State got screwed when they had that BCS, and you would think, things change over the years, but look at the committee and what's happening every week. We're going off of a brand name. Ohio State, they can lose a game and still be top 4. Alabama can lose a game and still be top 4. So until the committee gets out of this bias and with the SEC and the Big Ten, I mean, the solution is to extend the playoff and put at least 8 teams in. Because what it's at right now, it's literally saying what we're all arguing is Cincinnati is undefeated and they still can't even be in the top 4 ahead of Ohio State, who lost a game this year. And Alabama, sure, like we've said, probably head of Cincinnati probably loses to those teams. But the fact of the matter is, we're still rewarding a one-loss team rather than a team that hasn't lost a game. And Cincinnati beat Notre Dame, and Notre Dame's a top 10 team right now. So yeah, I don't know. I going back to the system, clearly they thought there was a problem, so that you can't really go back to it. So I don't think that's the solution. I think extending the playoff would be. And I don't know, I'm just so tired of the bias. It's just frustrating to see because Oklahoma State's being overlooked. Look at what they've done all year, and they're barely even talking about them. They don't get credit, and they probably won't get credit unless they went out and beat OU twice. So that's my only solution I could say.
Let's say our example. Let's say our example works though, right? So we want. It sucks to say, I understand, but we want OU to win this weekend, right? We're. Mm-hmm. I mean, because we want when we play OU for them to be, only one loss team, right? So let's say this all works out in OSU's favor. OSU plays a one loss. OSU plays a 1-loss OU. And then the week after that, OSU gets to play OU again, but on a neutral field.
But they wouldn't.
And
they'd play Baylor. We'd play Baylor.
That's if Baylor would lose. That's if Baylor doesn't lose the rest of the way, right?
Yeah.
If
so.
Baylor wins out and OSU wins out, OSU plays Baylor in the Big 12 championship.
All right. So I'll revise.
Okay.
Let's say this happens. OU wins this weekend. They beat Iowa State. We play OU, a 1-loss OU at home. We beat OU. It's now into the, now we're here, right? Big 12 championship. Then in Oklahoma State, 1 loss, and a Baylor 1 loss. Play in the, Baylor 2 loss, excuse me. Play in because they lost to us. But Baylor and OSU play in the Big 12 championship. And OSU wins again. We only got 1 loss in the season. It's an away game by 3 points against Iowa State earlier on in the season in October. Does that give us enough momentum to be in the top 4, regardless of how the other 4 sit? Right? I think the answer all of us would give is, well, if OU was in our shoes, yes. Right? For sure, with the name recognition. But I got to say, if we have to push out a 1-loss Ohio State and our only losses to Oregon, even though it was at home and it was by 7, or if we have to push out a 1-loss Alabama, a loss to a whatever ranked A&M. I mean, do you guys think we have the ability, like Oklahoma State has the ability if we went out to be in the top 4?
I think we should push out Oregon. Like, that's, if I'm being honest, because we're talking about an ACC team not even touching it. And we're talking about, like, I'm sorry. I think we would blow the absolute doors off Wake Forest. I think Wake Forest is good, but I don't think. So, I mean, they wouldn't, if we had to go up against an SEC team, they would pick the SEC team 10 times out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's us against an Oregon or Cincinnati, I think Oregon would beat us out. I think we would beat out Cincinnati. That's what I think, because I genuinely think they hold that Ohio State win with so much weight, even though they would discount Ohio State for losing the game like they do every year, because Ohio State went to Virginia Tech that one year and got the brakes beat off them and still went to the playoff. Like, they're allowed a loss. And it just so happens that this one was to Oregon. And so I genuinely think that they would be like, well, Oregon beat Ohio State, so we have to put them in. It would be Gary Bard up there spewing some garbage because he's an idiot. So
I would say, in my mind here, one, you have one SEC team in, you have one Big 12 team in, you have one of each of the Power 5 teams in, and then whoever the worst Power 5 team is that wins their championship is not in every year, period. That should be the deal, unless you have an unbeaten group of 5, right? Then you take the unbeaten group of 5 over a one-loss team, right? And I think that would be us in this chance, kind of, right?
Calvin, real quick.
Yeah.
In that Power 5 bracket, let's say all Power 5 teams are in. Like, would you just give one team a bye, and then after that, is that how you do it?
Well, so my theory about the college football playoffs for a while has been that if you have a 16-team playoff or a 32-team playoff or a 12-team playoff, whatever it is, it's so many games, it just wouldn't work after a while. We would condense it back and it'd be whatever it is. Like, as long as I'm all for having a 12-team playoff, I think that'd be a pretty darn good model. But my original idea and thought was what would be conceivable is doing an 8-team playoff and doing kind of what you're saying there, right? Top Power 5 team gets in, and then you have 3 at-large bids, one group of 5 team that's unbeaten or whatever. But I think right now, if you just played it as is today, you have to do something about Notre Dame. That's the wrinkle in the system every year where we go, oh, well, we got to put Notre Dame in. And then we also have 2 SEC teams in. And then all of a sudden you have, Georgia playing Alabama in the national championship, which we've seen before. You guys, Notre Dame gets in, and it's like, what are we doing?
Something like that happened a couple years ago too, and I could see it happening again. Where I think it was Alabama, where they didn't play in the SEC championship game, and the team that lost got penalized. Where Alabama was at 5, and they just slotted right in at number 4 for being idle and getting in the playoff. Like, how is that even? So you're telling me these conference championship games are so important, yet you're rewarding a team who didn't play that week and you put them in the playoff. So I think that's complete BS. They need to definitely steer away from that. That's, ridiculous. And same thing for Notre Dame. They don't even play a conference championship game.
And
so
I do find it
funny.
funny. Notre Dame gets to handpick their Big Ten ACC schedule hybrid. And they're like, oh, we'll make it like Iowa. So what? Who cares? Until you go play.
Bo's going to defend Iowa here. Hang on a second.
Not the Hawkeyes.
Bo, that is the most
Iowa State.
That is the most incompetent offense I've ever seen in my life.
Okay. All right.
Iowa's offense. But it's okay.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we would crush Notre Dame. Just if you looked at it in a vacuum, I don't think it's even close.
I don't think so either.
Is anyone here scared of
Vulture-
Jack Cohn?
Who?
Nah.
Exactly.
So, question about so if you expand the playoff, are you decreasing the amount of bowl games, or are
Well,
those?
yeah, I mean,
You have
yeah,
to.
you have
Mhm.
to.
Yeah.
You have
Okay.
to.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, best case scenario here is that you have a 16 team playoff where the first round, where basically the top 4 teams get a bye. I think I'm saying this correctly from what I've seen before. 4 teams get a bye. Then you have, the 12 teams basically play each other in week 1, right? Where one team, gets to host at their own school, because let's face it here. I mean, asking students to travel to, if your team makes national championship, to travel to 3 games, like, I mean, college students can't do that, like, reliably. You cannot do that every year. You're not seeing a bunch of Oklahoma State students traveling to 3 different games across the country. Can you imagine trying to go to the Peach Bowl, the Rose Bowl, and then all of a sudden you're going to the Sugar Bowl? Like, that's not obviously the venues. So it basically be, you get to play the home game. I mean, not that we wouldn't want to do it, but you get to play the home game at your school, whoever's the higher seed, and then you basically have the playoff from there. The winner plays the team who had the bye, and so on and so on. Right?
Well, and that's why the 12 or 16 doesn't really matter either way. Because
Yeah.
if we do the first round bye, it's fine. But you get to keep the New Year's Six bowls. Like it works out the same way. So I mean, 6 times 2 is 12. So quick math. But yeah, like that makes the most sense to me, because you're not even, like, to Bo's point, you're not even taking away bowl games at that point. You're all the New Year's Six bowls, all those bowls get to stay, but those teams are just playing in them, and then you just have quarterfinal, semifinal, and final. You don't even have to name them. I mean, I'm sure people would pay for a sponsor, but there doesn't have to be necessarily that bowl associated with it.
Well, this does bring one added wrinkle. I'll just throw in there because I just have the information handy. But for example, this year, I forget what the bowl name is that is the national championship, but 2 years from now, 2023, is the bowl game at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. Well, is that going to be the Rose Bowl? But the Rose Bowl still is like the venue that's historic, that has literally the Rose Bowl lettering on. So that's not going to be changed, right? Like, we're just going to call it the national championship game. So then all of a sudden the playoff bowl game that happens at the Rose Bowl or there probably won't be a playoff game there. It's just all like a weird mesh of stuff right at the end of the day. It's hard to figure out. But back to OSU football here for a second. We did have a listener or viewer question. Does OSU have a better chance at a title this year or the year in which Whedon was the starting quarterback in 2011 when we won the Big 12? I'll say it first. I think it's the 2011 team. I gotta be honest. Like, I think that was a better shot, just because I'm not basing the team off of defense. And historically, I love it when we're able to score more, and I can think we're never out of the game because we can never not score. Focusing our team that, like, okay, if we play Georgia in the national championship this year, for example, and thinking we've got to hold them to no points, but also we've got to score on that defense, that just seems just really tough, to be honest, comparatively to the 2011 year.
Yeah, I'm on board with that.
Yeah, that team was really good. We pretty much would all say the same thing. Blackman and Whedon. I mean,
back-to-back
on another
Blitnikoff
level.
Award winner. Yeah, Blackman. I
don't know how to make a case for this year. Like, this year, I mean, I was just trying to think about that. Like, Whedon, I mean, they just ran through everyone. But I mean, this year, I mean, we're solid, but I mean, I don't know. I'm not fully confident in this team this year. I don't know, just not fully confident in them.
Yeah, I think a case for this year, you could kind of really be confident in the defense. I think we could all agree with that.
Yeah.
And every game, the defense is going to show up, as they have for the first 10 games. Whereas the offense kind of is a wild card. Like, we've seen them struggle throughout games, but like the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we've put up a good amount of points. And it's like, if that's the offense we're going to get, then yeah, we can be really good and beat anybody. But if it's the offense we saw first half of the season, that's where we're like, I don't know,
And
Yeah.
I will say, like, back to the rankings, one thing I wouldn't mind seeing just to add some transparency to the committee, is releasing what the BCS bowl rankings would be. Like, I think that would be a good way, so at least we have something that's unbiased judging it. So you have the biased part and you have the unbiased part, and then you can kind of deduce from that. And I think just having the BCS rankings would show us a different side. We would get to see if, if maybe OSU is valued higher than a Notre Dame, or if OU is even higher than what they had been. If Alabama's even still number 2. I think it would just lend a lot where they would put Cincinnati in the BCS. I think it would just lend a lot to just providing more context, if that makes sense. Because it's so numbers based. And I think it would just provide a really good idea of this is what human error looks like and this is what computer error looks like, because we know the BCS had its flaws, but it would nice to see them both together.
For sure. And I think the AP poll does give us some type. Now, the AP poll is granted everyone's voting on it, but it does give us a type of understanding, where everything's ranked. Alabama is now second in the country. Cincinnati's third in the country in the AP poll. That was switched last week. Basically Cincinnati having not an incredible game, recently moves them down a spot. Whereas in the College Football Playoff rankings, like the top 7 didn't change at all. OU losing basically moved up a bunch of teams a couple of spots and moved OU down 5 spots. But other than that, not a huge other change. A&M moved back, NC State moved back, etc.
I found BCS standings for this week. So
yeah.
So right, Georgia 1, obviously. Alabama 2, Cincy 3, Ohio State 4, Notre Dame 5, Michigan 6, Oregon 7, Oklahoma State 8, Michigan State 9, and Oklahoma 10. So even me just reading it right there, that has a lot of issues on it. Like a lot that human error, or that human does kind of calculate for. Like Michigan has no reason being 3 spots ahead of Michigan State.
Yeah,
and Ohio State's 3 spots ahead of Oregon.
When Oregon beat them.
And Michigan State beat Michigan. So it just goes to show that, I don't know which one's worse, but I just think even if they showed it on the broadcast, I think it would still be interesting. Like, hey, this is what it would look like under the BCS. Aren't you guys happy we don't have this anymore? Could be worse. Be a good sales pitch.
Good endorsement of the current college football rankings when you look at the other. I mean, but currently I would go with the AP top 25 is a little bit better than college football playoff rankings.
There's less room for error for sure.
Well, but you still in AP top 25, you still have Oregon ahead of Ohio State, and you still have Michigan State ahead of Michigan. Right? So you still have the teams ahead of each other that have beaten each other. I don't get how Michigan's above Michigan State.
Yeah.
In really most senses of the word, but any understanding. Because, listen, stats can be stats, cool. But when the teams play head-to-head on the field, that's what matters at the end of the day. It doesn't matter, okay, if you have one bad week, and I know I'd be eating my words if I said Oklahoma State, but, we played Iowa State. We didn't have our best game, right? We needed to couple of things to work out. We talked about that at length, but we're all understanding that, that's part of playing college football. You don't have your best every single week. Alabama would say the same thing. They wish they, but for them, A&M on the road, losing by a field goal is different than OSU on the road losing by a field goal. It just is.
Yeah. There's just no consistency with it because, like you just said, Michigan being ahead of Michigan State, that's basically telling us the game didn't matter. That head-to-head game did not matter at all. Yet, we've got Ohio State behind Oregon, and Oregon beat them. So it's what are we saying? If Ohio State looks better the next 2 weeks, are we just gonna leapfrog them over Oregon, and then say, oh, that head-to-head game didn't matter? That's why we're having Michigan and Michigan State over here for our argument. It's
and this Gary Barta quote's been sitting on the stove for this moment. This was his direct quote. He said, "Set aside watching the games, though that's certainly a part of it. but statistically in just about every category, offensively and defensively, Michigan comes out on top over Michigan State. Direct quote.
Yep. Who's Gary Barter again, just for the listeners here?
He is the president. Is that what they're called? The president of the selection committee. This guy has college degrees.
Well, but I mean,
From where?
so many people have college degrees.
Wait, I think
From
am I even
Michigan?
kidding? I think I heard something that he actually he does something from isn't he from Iowa or like
He's not the president
He's the
of
AD.
Michigan. I thought you were going to
He's
say he's
the-
the AD of Michigan.
is he the AD
Like that
at
close.
Iowa?
He's the AD at Iowa. Yeah.
So he has some part of okay. So he's Big Ten.
He's definitely propping up the Big Ten for sure.
Yeah, he went to North Dakota State and grew up
Okay.
in Minneapolis. So there you go, Bo. Grew up in Minneapolis. That, you know,
Nice.
People up
Go
there.
Big Ten country.
Yeah.
you might want to you might want to cut him off. He's no longer welcome.
The other thing I'd say here too that we're talking about rankings is okay, if you make a 12-team playoff, is everyone in? Right? Like AP, Wake Forest is out. So then there's no ACC team in. If you make a 16-team playoff, right? Then, and this is as of today, right? Like more stuff will work its way out. But okay, so we're UTSA's in the AP, top 25. Like cool UTSA. I mean, they haven't lost a game all season, but like I'm not putting UTSA up there with Cincinnati. I think it'd be great if they could play each other in their, like if the best two non-Power 5 teams should play a conference championship against each other. More or less, like not a conference championship, but more or less a championship against each other, right?
Like a playoff, like a play-in to a playoff game or something like that.
Yeah.
Something
Like
that.
what's stopping UTSA from just going, let's schedule it? We'll play at Cincinnati. Screw it. I mean, probably just saving face, but it's just a fun idea. Earlier, Bo and Alexi, Jake and I had definitely a plan here to talk more about college basketball in Oklahoma State so far. So did you guys get a chance to watch the game where we unfortunately lost? Was that Friday, Jake? I think it was Friday.
Yeah, it was
Against
Friday.
Oakland.
Friday.
I stopped watching it because there were too many turnovers.
I did not watch. I was just game casting it.
Yeah.
How do you think this affects our postseason chances?
I will say the commentator today gets on full confidence and goes, and we're playing NC State right now for those that don't know, and that's fine. He gets on full confidence today and goes, well, this game's going to be really big for both teams' postseason aspirations. Like, you're a jerk, man.
Okay.
You're a jerk.
Does he even know? Well, I mean, yes, for a couple of seconds. How do you guys think we've looked so far in the OSU's, 3 or 4 games we played? I think it's 4 total, 5 if we include the exhibition one.
I'm loving Bryce Thompson. And then Keelan Boone is he's been a pretty breath of fresh air, I'd say, as far as like his just ability. And then I feel like 3 point guards. I don't see any trouble sharing the ball, but just I don't know. In the game, I feel like we should have won. I just felt like there was too much going on. Like maybe just if we have 3 guards in there, maybe just have Ice in there at one time, and then get some taller guys around him so he can feed the ball to him down low. Like don't just and then maybe like put in like a guy like Avery or Rondell on the wings to shoot threes if you need to. So
yeah, I've liked what I've seen from Thompson a lot too. I think him coming over here, and I thought he was obviously he was a big target for Boynton when he was trying to get him originally before he went to Kansas. So I think it was good to have that, keep that relationship and get him back over to Oklahoma State when he eventually transferred. So I think he will get even better. I think that's a great piece to the team. There's a lot of good things, and I mean, there's a lot of things that I don't know haven't been as pretty, but it is early in the year. Losing to Oakland is terrible, and of course, even playoffs or not, getting into the tournament sucks to have lost that game, especially being at home. But I don't know. I think it's like I said, it's still early, and if they can beat NC State, I think that'd be pretty cool to beat an ACC team. I don't know how good NC State's supposed to be this year, but actually, I did I'm watching the game behind in front of me now, and I did notice it said no turnovers. Is that right, Jake? Am I seeing that right?
Right now, I don't know. Maybe in the second half.
Yeah, I don't know if that meant second half or the game, but it said NC State had 10 and Oklahoma State had 0. So I don't know. I just saw that pop up. Thought that was crazy.
And I will say against Oakland, Bryce Williams was out, which he deserved to be, and Caleb Boone was also out, if I'm correct. So I mean, I would have to say if even one of those guys is playing, we win. Now, it's still Oakland, so we shouldn't lose. But regardless, like, I don't know if either of you guys saw the last play, but you didn't see it.
I did. Yeah, I didn't get to see any of the game, unfortunately. Well, maybe that's a good thing because we lost.
Basically, Oakland's point guard, I actually put it on. I filmed it for Calvin and sent it to him because it was that bad. Oakland's point guard walked down, dribbled for about 20 seconds, and then did the whole like Dwayne Wade step back three, but not actually shooting. Avery Anderson closed out on him, and he jumped in for 3 free throws.
Oh,
So it was awesome.
So 3 free throws.
Yeah, and we lost by 1.
Wow, that's terrible.
So that call probably doesn't get called in the NBA this year, if from what I've heard is correct. I haven't watched very much of it.
As the avid NBA watcher, I can tell you that Trae Young's not getting that call like he used to. I think it still gets called. Like guys get trapped into it. Like if you're a ref and you're kind of like watching someone else, but that it was egregious. Like it was one of those things where Anderson clearly closes out, and the guy, you can tell he's not jumping up and down. He's jumping into,
Yeah, he's jumping forward. Now, probably shouldn't have been in the game, but Oakland's pretty stingy. That's probably the best way to describe them. I don't think Oakland's ever a bad team, just in general, but definitely shouldn't lose. And that's also coming off where the NCAA feels the need to make their little petty fourth grade comments of, well, you were being mean to me, so I'm going to threaten you. Can't imagine that went over too well in the locker room. Can't imagine that cooler heads prevailed. So I don't want to sit here and like make a list of excuses, but there were a lot of reasons why we lost that game, including the fact that we just played like garbage.
Yeah.
So,
well, but we're winning right now.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably worthy for us to do a Big 12 basketball preview here later on once we get closer to the actual start of Big 12 play.
Yeah.
Because clearly football is what's on the mind right now, especially college ball rankings and OSU's games for us this season. So with our celebrity guest picker and Bo Wilson joining, Bo, if you want to look up, let's all pick one game. Yeah, we pick one game, and then we pick the score, how much OSU scores this weekend as a tiebreaker if needed. Because good Lord, it is tough putting together a graphic with like 80 teams. I'll tell you what, finding that transparent Michigan PNG image is been weirdly challenging. I don't know why it would be.
All right, so just any college football game from
any college football game this weekend. But I'll start it off here. I'm gonna just ask you guys. All right, like it's the leading game this weekend. Ohio State, Michigan State, right? So who you guys got? And we're not doing scores, we're just doing straight up. So not even counting the spread, just straight up. Who you got?
Ohio State.
Okay. Jake?
Michigan State, because I'm biased.
All right. Alexi?
I hate ever having to pick them, but I just don't see them losing at home. Ohio State.
All right. Well, I said I wasn't going to be a pansy this week, but I'm going to eat my words here and just say Ohio State for the heck of it, for at least right now, and let Jake be out on the limb. Jake, what's your game? Or Alexi, what's your game? I'll let Bo do a little more research if he wants to.
So real quick, I remember watching the show. I think it was like last week, but Jake was just trying to find like not the worst game, but just like just a college like James Madison versus like Western Kentucky or something. So I'm just going through the games. I'm like, what is a small game here? So that's my strategy.
Okay, all right. Well,
Georgia,
Jake,
Charles Southern.
Yeah, I saw that.
I pick one where it actually would be close, right?
Oof, there's 2 games I'm looking at that I'm wanting to pick the upset in too.
I think I know which one.
Which one are you thinking?
Maryland and Michigan.
No, not that.
Okay.
There's 2 games.
Alexa, you say the first one. If we somehow miss it, we'll add it back in.
The first one I was looking at, I'll tell you, and then if you don't say the second one, I'll mention it as an honorable mention. The first one I'm looking at, SMU against Cincinnati. I think that's going to be a lot closer than people think. I think Cincinnati's going to have a tough one. I mean SMU. I've watched them. They can score. Defensively, not great, but they can put up points. And if it gets into a shootout, I think it can get really close. Could be really close. So I'm going with the upset. I'm going SMU here to knock out Cincinnati.
I am also going SMU.
Let's go.
Oh, what are you thinking here?
We're doing the same game?
Yeah, you choose a game to like throw in that we all pick, basically.
Oh, okay.
But we're all picking the SMU Cincinnati game right now.
Okay, all right. SMU. I haven't seen them play, and I know Cincinnati's record, so I will be the odd man out in this one. I will choose Cincinnati.
All right. I'm also going to go Cincinnati just because stats. I don't know. It's at home. Like I know SMU has Tanner Mordecai, the former OU backup. I know they've looked pretty darn good, but at the end of the day, I'm still choosing Cincinnati for. I mean, they're unbeaten. It's at home. Cincinnati has everything to play for in the entire world. They should beat them by 40 to prove a point, but I'll probably beat them by 7 at the end, and we'll see. Jake, game you want to choose? I think both still looking.
I am going Utah and Oregon.
That was my second game.
Good choice. All right, thank you.
I am picking Utah. I want like full chaos.
Yeah, Jake's picking every upset so far.
Absolutely.
Alexi?
I want chaos.
I'm going Utah, and I think they absolutely can win without. I mean, it could be close, of course, but I think Utah could easily win this game for sure.
Yeah,
and I love that they're at home.
I know Oregon is not even favored in this game. They're the 3rd team in the country. Utah's the 24th team in the country. How in the world is Oregon the underdog when they're the 3rd team in the country and Utah's the 24th? I don't get it. It shouldn't matter. It should be Oregon favored by 10 regardless. But they're not. They're the underdog for whatever reason. I think the Utah teams play a lot more physical. They play a different, whatever you want to say, brand of football than the rest of the Pac-12. With all being said,
that place like a boneyard too. Like people,
it's a weird spot to play college football in. I've heard stories. I don't know for sure. I've never been there. We drove past it, I believe, at one point.
We drove through the university. Yeah. UU? Did they just call it UU?
Utah Utes.
University of Utah.
It'd be like if Oklahoma State, we just went if we just went for the Oklahoma Okies, or something weird. Like, I don't know. It's an odd thing to do, but UU. At the end of the day, I haven't said my pick yet. I'm just going to choose Oregon just to be the odd man out here. Try to mix up a little bit. I did take Cincinnati earlier as well too. Listen, best team should win. If Oregon's bad, Oregon's bad, and I want Utah to win for Oklahoma State's record. For Oklahoma State's sake of things, I want to choose SMU and Utah to win this weekend, as well as Michigan State. Now, I don't think the Michigan State thing helps us out that much. I don't think it matters too much, but more chaos, the better. Bo, who you got here, Oregon or Utah?
I'll choose Utah for this one.
Oh, all right.
And then I think I found a game. I'm going to stick with the Big 12 for this one. Choosing the 4 and 6 teams, Texas and West Virginia. Texas is playing at West Virginia, so I'm going to go with the home team for this one.
All right, Bo's taking West Virginia.
I'm going to choose Kansas.
You know, we all picked that game. There was no reason why we should have picked that game. I'm sure there's another game, but I was like, I'm going to throw it in just for fun. Let's throw in the
We should have all just
you know,
taken
KU
Kansas. We
Texas
should have
game.
said screw
And
it. I'm just taking
one
Kansas.
of us should have gone Baylor, and one of us should have gone Kansas for sure. At least one of us. But instead we, oh no, it's for a jersey bet. We all want to be right. No one wants to lose money. Screw it. We all lost money either way. Bo took West Virginia. Alexi, Jake, who are you taking here?
West Virginia.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know how Texas can come back from losing to Kansas. I'm going to West Virginia.
All right, and I'm going to take Texas just to really either kill myself completely in this or go for it all. It's really just a swinging for the fences. All right, here are my predictions. Right, all right. Last game has we all picked one game, right? So last thing here, unless there's an honorable mention, we have to just choose. What's your pick on OSU score in the game against Texas Tech this weekend? None of us, by the way, were anywhere close that last week. Jake was the closest with 31. Alexi's next closest with 26. I had 21, and somehow we scored 63. So glad we scored 63, of course. Extremely hyped on that. Just want to say for the record, none of us were even within 30 points of the score prediction last week. So Jake's got OSU scores 41. Alexi, what do you got?
Oof.
Or do you want me to go? I usually don't go first. I'll try to switch it up.
It's fine.
Right now I've been going like third or fourth in all the picks, so I got to switch it up here.
You're good.
I'm going to say OSU.
Good.
I'm just going to say 38. 38.
Okay. I will say they give up 33. They average 33 a game. I'll say they put up 45.
Ooh, okay.
All
right, and Bo.
So we're just choosing
just how much OSU scores. Just how much OSU scores. Yep. This is the tiebreaker, which the tiebreaker won't matter for me. I chose differently every single person besides you, Bo, in one game. But the tiebreaker will matter for Jake and Alexi possibly.
Okay. All right. I will go on the lower end. I will choose 35.
Wow, really just killing me there. Really killing me, Bo. If we scored 38, I'm wrong. Anyways, guys, I think that wraps up the latest episode of the CGA Tour. Bo, thank you so much for being the special guest spot here. Alexi, thanks for getting off work when you got off work. So appreciate you for joining, as always. Jake, thanks for being on the East Coast, man. You know, I got to see the darkness outside before I sat outside my own window. It was great.
Not for long. Not for long.
What do you mean? What are you getting at here? It's still going to be pitch black outside for a little bit. I don't know. Again, thank you so much for listening to the latest episode of the CJ Tour podcast. Please follow at the CJ Tour on Twitter and Instagram for more. And please rate and review the podcast wherever you're listening to as well. We'll catch you guys again soon. Peace.
See ya.
Oh, tell everyone bye.
Bye.
All right.
I was muted. I was like, hey, we're going out. I'm just gonna let the. Are you still recording?